You know that feeling. You text someone and they don't reply. You walk into a room and they barely acknowledge you. You reach out again and again and all you get is silence. That silence, it stings. That silence, it hurts. But let me tell you something. It's not the rejection you think it is. It's a redirection. It's a sign. And the truth is, sometimes the pain of being ignored is the only wake-up call we ever truly listen to. When someone ignores you, your brain starts spiraling. What did I do wrong? Am I not good enough? Why are they treating me like I don't matter? But pause. Right there. That internal dialogue, that's the real problem. It's not the silence from them. It's the story you're telling yourself in that silence. And the story is wrong. Being ignored doesn't mean you're invisible. It means you're misplacing your value. You're handing your power over to someone else, hoping they'll give it back in the form of validation. But guess what? They won't, because they're not supposed to. That's your job. People who truly value you won't ignore you. They won't leave you questioning your worth. When someone continuously ignores you, that's their truth speaking louder than any excuse ever could. They're showing you exactly where you stand in their life, and you've got to believe them. Not fight it. Not chase them, not try harder, believe them. This isn't about being cold. This isn't about being bitter. This is about being awake, emotionally intelligent, mature, because you don't control how people treat you, but you do control how long you tolerate it. If someone's silence is draining you, that's not a cue to shrink. It's a signal to rise, to protect your energy, to set boundaries, to value your own time, your own heart, your own voice. You want to know what that silence is really telling you? It's saying, your energy is too good for this. Your attention deserves a return on investment. Your love is too valuable to be left on read. You think it's about them, but it's not. It's about how long you're willing to keep knocking on a door that was never meant to open. Here's a reality check. You don't need closure from someone who gave you confusion. You don't need clarity from someone who gave you chaos. And you definitely don't need presence from someone who's made it clear they're not showing up. So what do? You refocus. You invest that energy back into yourself, into people who see you, into projects that light you up, into habits that grow you. Let them ignore you. That silence will be the loudest mistake they ever made. And you'll be too busy thriving to even notice. Don't beg to be understood in spaces where you're constantly overlooked. Don't shrink to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You're not here to prove your worth. You're here to own it. So when someone ignores you, yes, it'll hurt. But let that pain teach you, not trap you. Let it remind you that your value is non-negotiable, that you don't need to earn love. You need to recognize it. And if it's not there, you walk away with your head high, heart intact, and boundaries stronger than ever. Because the truth is simple, being ignored isn't a dead end. It's a detour to something better, if you're smart enough to see the sign and brave enough to follow it. When someone ignores you, it's one of the most confusing and emotionally exhausting experiences you can go through. It taps into our deepest fears, being unloved, unwanted, unseen. And your brain starts working overtime to make sense of it. You start overthinking every interaction. Did I say something wrong? Was I too much? Not enough? But let's stop right there. Because the moment someone starts ignoring you consistently, that's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their capacity to show up. Their silence isn't about you. It's about them. It's about their inability or unwillingness to engage. And that is not something you're responsible for fixing. When we chase people who ignore us, we're not just chasing them. We're chasing the approval we never gave ourselves. We are trying to rewrite a story where someone else finally sees us, finally validates us. But chasing that validation will only lead you further from yourself. The hard truth is, if someone's ignoring you, that's their message. And it's a loud one. They're saying, I don't have the space or intention to prioritize you. And as hard as that is to hear, it's a gift. It's a sign, a clear signal that you need to take your attention, your love, your energy, and place it where it's appreciated. It's not your job to force someone to care. It's not your responsibility to keep trying when all you get is indifference. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. And if you keep showing up for someone who consistently ignores you, you're teaching them that you'll accept the bare minimum, that your presence is a given, that they don't need to reciprocate. That has to stop. Because the longer you stay in that dynamic, the more you lose touch with your self-worth. You start believing the lie that you're only as valuable as the attention you're given. That's not true. You're valuable because you exist, you're worthy even when you're overlooked, but you've got to start acting like it. The sting of being ignored can make you feel powerless. But there's power in choosing how you respond. You can take that silence and use it as fuel. You can let it remind you to stop begging for scraps and start serving yourself the full meal of love, attention, and respect you deserve. Every moment you waste waiting on someone who's clearly not invested is a moment stolen from someone or something that could actually grow you. So let them ignore you. Let them sit in silence. And while they do, rise. Get louder about your boundaries. Get clearer about your goals. Get focused on what makes you feel alive. Because one day, that same person who ignored you may look back and realize what they lost. But by then, you'll be so far ahead in your journey that their recognition will no longer matter. You don't need closure from someone who doesn't communicate. You need commitment from yourself to walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. You are not needy for wanting to be seen. You're not dramatic for wanting connection. You're human. And connection is a basic need. But chasing after someone who chooses to ignore you again and again is emotional self-harm. Your peace, your growth, your energy is too important to be wasted on proving yourself to people who don't even notice when you go silent in return. That's your sign. That's the wake-up call. Stop hoping they'll change. Start changing how you value yourself. You deserve effort. You deserve presence. You deserve honesty. And if someone is unwilling or unable to give you those things, your job is not to become smaller, quieter, or more available. Your job is to step into the fullness of who you are and walk toward people and places that recognize your worth without you having to scream for it. Their silence isn't your failure. It's your freedom. It's permission to take your love back, take your energy back, and give it to yourself first. Because when you stop chasing what ignores you, you start attracting what aligns with you. And that's when everything begins to shift. There's something incredibly painful about being ignored. It's not loud like a fight. It's not clear like a rejection. It's just silence. A silence that echoes louder than words. And in that silence, your mind starts writing a narrative. You begin to question your worth, your place, your value. The truth is, that kind of emotional response is human. It's natural. We're wired for connection. So when someone chooses to disconnect from us without explanation, it feels personal. But here's what I want you to understand. When someone ignores you, it's a sign, not of your inadequacy, but of misalignment. It's a signal that your energy is being misplaced, your attention is being drained, and your emotional investments need to be reevaluated. We've all been there, refreshing the message thread, checking if the person saw it, wondering why they haven't responded. You start overthinking everything. Did I say too much? Not enough? Are they upset with me? But in doing that, you give away your power. You start assigning your peace to someone else's behavior. That's dangerous. Because the longer you stay in that loop, the more you disconnect from your own self-worth. Being ignored doesn't define you. It reveals something about the other person's inability to show up for you in the way you deserve. You have to start looking at silence not as a rejection, but as information. That lack of response, that's communication. That's someone showing you without words that they don't have the capacity or interest to give you what you need right now. And instead of running after that, trying to decode the silence, trying to force a connection, you need to listen. Not to them, but to your gut. Because deep down, you already know when someone is emotionally unavailable. You already feel it, the distance, the lack of effort, the way they treat your presence like an option instead of a priority. That's your sign. And it's up to you to stop ignoring the signs because you want the story to be different. Choosing to walk away from someone who ignores you isn't petty. It's powerful. It means you value your emotional energy. It means you're no longer okay with begging for attention. It means you understand that silence speaks and you're willing to listen. You can't make someone appreciate you. You can't force someone to see your worth. But you can decide that you will never again lower your standards just to feel seen by someone who refuses to look. Your job is not to chase people. Your job is not to convince someone to choose you. Your job is to be so rooted in your own value that their silence becomes background noise, not a siren of self-doubt. You don't need closure. You don't need one last conversation. What you need is to realize that being ignored is the closure. That's the conversation. That's the decision already made for you. Instead of spiraling, shift your focus. Start asking better questions. Don't ask, why are they ignoring me? Ask, why am I giving someone access to me who clearly doesn't value it? Flip the script. Your time, your energy, your love, it's currency. Start treating it like something valuable, because when you do, you stop offering it to people who treat it like spare change. One of the most liberating things you'll ever do is stop begging for attention and start commanding your worth. You don't need 50 people half showing up. You need one person, to show up fully for yourself. That means choosing silence over chaos. That means choosing solitude over disrespect. That means not chasing someone who's comfortable pretending you don't exist. And when you do that, when you finally stop taking silence as a personal attack and start seeing it as divine redirection, everything shifts. You become stronger. You become clearer. And most importantly, you become unavailable to anything less than what you truly deserve. Their silence is not your sentence. It's your signal. Take the hint, protect your peace, reclaim your power, and walk in a direction where your presence is felt, not ignored. Being ignored is one of the most emotionally jarring experiences a person can face. It leaves you in limbo, not knowing what went wrong, not knowing where you stand, and not knowing what to do next. And that uncertainty, it eats at your confidence. It makes you feel invisible, like your presence doesn't matter. But here's the truth. Someone ignoring you doesn't make you any less worthy. It doesn't reduce your value. What it really is a wake-up call, a quiet message telling you that you've been focusing your energy in the wrong direction. It's not rejection, it's redirection. It's the universe, or maybe just life, giving you a gentle but firm push to stop chasing people who aren't reaching back. It's easy to think that maybe if you had said something different, done something better, or been more perfect, they wouldn't have ignored you. But that's a trap. That mindset will leave you constantly editing yourself to earn someone else's approval. And you're not here to earn worthiness. You were born with it. The mistake isn't in being yourself. The mistake is in thinking you have to change yourself just to hold someone's attention. If someone can't handle the full version of who you are, if they disappear the moment things get real or difficult, that's not someone you need to chase. That's someone who's telling you, clearly, that they are not capable of showing up for you the way you deserve. Silence can hurt more than words, because it feels like being dismissed. But that pain is useful. It tells you what matters to you. It tells you what you've been giving and not receiving. It reveals your own patterns of overextending, of proving, of waiting. And once you become aware of those patterns, you can break them. You don't have to keep giving energy to someone who meets it with silence. You don't have to keep trying to fix something you didn't break. You are allowed to outgrow relationships that make you feel small. You are allowed to step back when your efforts aren't reciprocated. That's not cold. That's not being rude. That's emotional intelligence. It's maturity. It's self-protection. Because at the end of the day, you only have so much mental and emotional energy. And spending it all trying to make someone notice you is exhausting. It's draining. It's distracting you from the people and places where your energy could be celebrated, not just tolerated. What happens when you stop chasing people who ignore you is powerful. You begin to notice the people who've always been there, the friends who check in, the family who listens, the coworkers who genuinely ask how you're doing. You realize there's a whole world outside of the person who's been making you feel like you're not enough. You remember that your worth isn't something they get to decide. You begin to build yourself back up, not by becoming colder, but by becoming wiser. Wiser about where you give your heart. Wiser about what behavior you accept. Wiser about what you need in a connection to feel secure and respected. You don't need closure to move on. You don't need a detailed explanation. Sometimes the silence is all the clarity you need, because someone who truly cares will not leave you wondering. They won't make you doubt your place in their life. They won't ignore you when things get uncomfortable. Real connection requires effort. It requires presence. And when someone chooses to withhold that, you have every right to stop showing up. Let that silence teach you something. Let it sharpen your awareness of who deserves your time. Let it guide you into setting boundaries, raising standards, and most importantly, turning inward. Because when you start listening to your own voice more than you listen to the absence of someone else's, you reclaim power. And in that power, you find peace. Not because someone else changed, but because you finally did. You stopped hoping they'd come around and realized you were already whole. The silence didn't break you, it woke you up. And now, you're done ignoring yourself. When someone ignores you, the most natural reaction is to internalize it. You start thinking, maybe I'm not interesting enough. Maybe I'm not lovable. Maybe I did something wrong. You take their silence and turn it into self-criticism. That's how powerful the human mind is. It creates meaning out of emptiness. But here's what most people don't realize. Being ignored isn't proof that you're lacking. It's evidence that they're not willing or capable of engaging. And that has nothing to do with your worth. Their silence is not your failure, it's feedback. It's a signal. And if you listen to it with clarity instead of pain, it will teach you everything you need to know. You were never meant to beg for attention. You were never meant to shrink yourself to be more digestible to someone else's comfort zone. If someone has to be reminded to respect you, to respond to you, or to even acknowledge you, what kind of relationship is that? That's not a connection. That's you holding up the entire foundation by yourself. That's emotional labor, and it's exhausting. When you're the only one making the effort, initiating conversations, following up, keeping the relationship alive, it's not mutual, it's survival. And you are not built to survive someone's neglect. Most people think that if they just try harder, if they're more patient, more kind, more forgiving, the person ignoring them will change. But here's the truth. If someone's ignoring you now, it's not because you're too much. It's because they're giving you too little. And you're adapting to it. You're bending your expectations lower and lower just to keep something going. But a relationship shouldn't feel like you're walking on eggshells or trying to solve a puzzle. You shouldn't be confused about where you stand. You shouldn't have to earn basic communication. There's a freedom that comes when you stop waiting for people to choose you, when you stop holding your breath, hoping someone notices your silence or reads between the lines, when you realize that the attention you've been seeking from others is the attention you need to start giving yourself, everything changes. You stop chasing and you start choosing. You start choosing people who show up. You start choosing situations that feel healthy. You start choosing peace over anxiety, clarity over confusion, effort over excuses. Let's be honest, being ignored hurts, it cuts deep. But pain is not your enemy. Pain is your body and mind saying something isn't right here. Pay attention. That sting you feel when someone ghosts you, that ache when you're left on read, it's not weakness. It's your inner wisdom trying to get your attention. It's saying, you deserve more than this. It's urging you to stop investing in people who treat your presence like it's optional. Your time, your love, your energy, they are not cheap. Stop handing them out like free samples to people who don't even know how to receive them. And here's the real lesson. Sometimes, being ignored is a blessing in disguise. It shows you exactly who's not meant for you. It clears space. It forces you to evaluate what you've been tolerating and why. It gives you a chance to take a hard look at your boundaries or lack of them. And more than anything, it reminds you to come home to yourself, to be the kind of person who answers their own needs, who validates their own worth, and who refuses to be a second thought in someone else's life. The people who ignore you are not villains. They're not always doing it to hurt you. Sometimes they're just not equipped to be who you need, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean you stay stuck in the waiting room of their attention. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to beg to be chosen. You need to quietly walk away and remind yourself that the people meant for you will never leave you questioning your value. So if you're being ignored, take it as a sign that it's time to refocus, a sign that your energy has greater places to go, a sign that you've been giving more than you've been receiving. Don't fight for a place at a table where you're not welcomed. Build your own table, and when you do, you'll realize that the people who matter, who truly see you, hear you, and appreciate you, they were waiting for you to stop settling so they could finally find you. When someone ignores you, it hits differently. It's not like a loud argument or a confrontation where at least something is being said. Instead, it's a quiet kind of pain, a slow ache that makes you question your place in their life. Silence leaves room for interpretation, and most of the time we fill that space with self-doubt. We start wondering what we did wrong, how we could have been better, why we're not enough. But here's the truth you need to hear today. Being ignored is not a measure of your worth. It's a reflection of their inability to show up, to communicate, and to treat you with the respect you deserve. It hurts, yes, but it's also a powerful sign. And that sign is telling you it's time to turn inward and reevaluate where your energy is going. So often, we stay in situations far longer than we should because we're holding on to potential. We remember the good times, the moments when that person paid attention, said the right things, or made us feel seen. But when someone starts ignoring you, that's not who they are anymore. Or maybe that's who they never were. You cannot keep watering a relationship where the other person isn't even showing up with a bucket. You cannot keep investing your time, your thoughts, your heart into a space that only gives you back silence. That silence is information. It's communication. And it's loud if you're willing to listen to it. You deserve people who are clear with you. You deserve communication, not confusion. When someone cares about you, they don't ignore you. They don't make you chase answers or force you to guess where you stand. Healthy relationships, whether romantic, friendship, or professional, require effort. They require presence. And when that effort is missing, you don't need to work harder to fix it. You need to step back and decide what you're going to tolerate moving forward. It's not easy, especially if you're someone who sees the best in people. You want to believe that they're just busy, that they'll come around, that they didn't mean to ignore you. And maybe sometimes that's true. But if it's a pattern, if you keep showing up and they keep disappearing, that's not a coincidence. That's a choice. And every time you excuse it, every time you minimize your own needs just to keep the connection going, you're sending a message. You're saying, I'll accept this, but you don't have to. You have the right to walk away from people who make you feel invisible. You have the right to set standards for how you want to be treated. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. You can care about someone deeply and still choose to protect your peace. You can forgive someone and still decide that their absence speaks louder than their excuses. At the end of the day, you get to decide the energy you allow in your life. Think about how much time you've spent analyzing someone's silence, how many nights you've lost sleep, how many hours you've replayed conversations in your head. All of that energy could be going toward your growth, toward your healing, toward relationships that actually fill your cup instead of draining it. When you stop pouring into people who ignore you, you make room for the ones who see you clearly and meet you fully. The shift happens the moment you realize that your attention is valuable, that your love is powerful, that your presence is not something to be overlooked. And if someone can't see that, if they choose silence over honesty, distance over effort, avoidance over connection, that's not your fault. That's not your burden. You were never meant to fight for a place in someone's life who keeps showing you they don't have space for you. So let them ignore you. Let them pull away. Let them show you who they are. And instead of running toward them, run toward yourself. Pour that love back into your goals, into your healing, into the people who never make you wonder how they feel about you. You deserve that. You deserve peace. You deserve clarity. And sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from the things that hurt, even when they're silent. Because that silence, it's a sign. And now it's your move.